Thanks for listening to the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast, where each week we talk about a free piece or two of technology that you can use in your classroom. I'm your host, Shanna Martin. I'm a middle school teacher, technology and instructional coach from my district.
And I'm her producer and husband, Fuzz Martin, and I am not artificially intelligent.
Ooh, clever.
Yeah.
We are clever in 2023.
I tried to have one of the topics, one of these tools that we're using today, write the pun for the opening show, but it didn't really land.
Gotcha.
Did you hear about the chat bot with a great sense of humor? It's always telling puns and jokes. It's a real giggle bot was the first one.
That's not good.
And then the second one, I said, write another pun about AI doing your homework. And it said, why was the AI always able to finish its homework on time? It had a machine learning algorithm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
They're okay. So it's 2023.
Yes, the future.
We're in a new year here.
Welcome to the future.
We are. We are so in the future with today's podcast and today's chat.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in episode 137. Hooray.
Hooray, hooray.
It is January. I will point out here in Wisconsin that it does not feel like January today.
No, it feels
like it's like November.
November, maybe
like the 18th?
The last week of March or the first week of April, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a blizzard last week, and now the grass is green and it's warm outside. Warm as in 39 degrees outside, warm. But hey, it feels
shorts
warm.
weather, you know.
There's sunshine. We are talking about the overarching topic, I guess, of OpenAI this week and two specific sites within OpenAI. So our first site that we're going to chat about is ChatGPT. And then the second one we're going to talk about is Dall-E-2. But we're going to start with the first one because I keep hearing more and more about it from educators, or I see it. I've been reading on Twitter and different social media accounts, and some educators are extremely worried about these OpenAI sites. And I have others that are like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Watch what you can have your students do. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about actually how it would be a great tool to use in your classroom. And then also just some things to be aware of because
it's out there and your kids are going to know about it.
Kids are using it. Yeah. They are. Like, it's not like they already know about it. So this is kind of just informing those that don't know about it. And if you are embracing it, cool. These are some cool ways you can use it in your classroom.
Agreed.
The first one, so it's openai.com. The first one we're talking about is ChatGPT. And it's basically like it writes dialogue for you. If you go into the site, you can just try it out, sign it up with Google. You might as well make yourself an account because it's free. Yay. And you probably want to know what's going on as a teacher. And in education, we're always learning new things and learning what our students are using. ChatGPT, which I have to say very slowly because I want to say...
You want to say GDP.
GDP all the time since I teach social studies. Anyway, so...
That makes sense.
Basically, you type in what you want, and then the magic of AI writes it for you.
That is the gist of it, yes. You give it a request, like here, I'll say, write a pun about teachers. And it says, why was the math teacher always calm? Because it had lots of square roots. Not super funny, but it's a machine trying out different combinations of words.
So let's talk about successes of this.
Yeah.
So I literally threw in write a memoir about a girl and her dog.
Yep.
Now, any of you teachers teaching Lucy know that we have a memoir unit.
Yep.
And it will write you a beautiful memoir.
Pretty good memoir.
About a girl and her dog. I will read just the first few lines. So I literally typed in, write a short memoir about a girl and her dog. This starts. As a young girl, I always dreamed of having a dog of my own. My parents were hesitant at first, but eventually they caved and went to the local animal shelter to find the perfect companion. That's when I met him, a scruffy little terrier mix with brown eyes and a wagging tail. I knew he was the one as soon as I saw him. Now, we probably can pick out that our students didn't necessarily write that because it's pretty clean and straightforward and no issues. And if they're going to copy and paste something straight out of here and put it into Google Docs, you're going to see, if you check their history, that they just cut and pasted the whole thing. However, if you go to search a plagiarism checker, it's not going to come up easily because this is created. It's not going to be straight out on the internet.
Right.
So it's something to be aware of, that it's a great way to get kids like brainstorming and thinking about their writing, but also kids are going to find ways to use this and not necessarily do their own writing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there are so many things that you can use this for, and it writes so well, and you can't check against a plagiarism checker because this is new content that it's creating.
Yeah.
Now, it kind of feels like a calculator used to feel to a math department, and now math.
There's a time and place when you're supposed to use them.
Exactly.
So if you want this as like a story starter or like a way, if you know your kids are using it, like, all right, let's embrace the tool and move forward with it.
Yep.
If you think your kids are cheating,
right,
it's hard to check, but you can, if they're going into a Google Doc, you can see if something has been pasted. You can check the history to see if a whole document has been pasted into a Google document. So you can check it that way. But it can be used as a tool. I think of some of our kids who are really struggling writers, that this could be a way like, okay, this is a starting point. Okay, let's break this down. This is your idea, but then you could break it down in pieces. Like, what sounds fake here? What could you add here? And use the tool to support their writing. So I do think, though, that just being aware of ChatGPT is out there. It could definitely be used as a writing tool and to help our kids think and process and write fun things. I know you used it for an example. You're like, hey, you guys need to see this. Write the opening to a Hallmark holiday movie. And it was like a picturesque day in a small town. And it wrote a beautiful piece of writing. It
did. It was structured appropriately. Yeah. And it even had like end credits. It was very well done.
Yeah.
But I have used it for things that aren't even just experimenting. For instance, with one of the nonprofits that I serve, I needed to write some product descriptions for some apparel that was going online. And instead of me trying to reinvent the wheel, I just went to ChatGPT and I said, write a short product overview about this Adidas polo with the Wisconsin 9/11 memorial on it.
Yeah.
And it wrote it out. Yeah. It actually even had some of the features of that product correct. Yeah. So I didn't even need to change much of anything. But I could see, outside of the plagiarism part, I could see a teacher in a class using this to start a writing prompt.
Right.
I could see.
Or even, I know that memoirs are really hard to teach. And if you need examples, you could pull, like, here are several examples. You don't have to even show the kids the website. You could you as a teacher could use this as some writing examples. Yeah. So you would have a few instead of racking your brain. And I know several of the language arts teachers I work with, like, they write all their own examples to then break down essays and show students. And this would just save time for that, where then you have some examples to share with your kids for them to analyze, and maybe here, you take this general skeleton and add to it and build on it and things like that. So there are ways to use it that would be very helpful and time saving, but it's also something to be aware of that students are probably going to try and cheat with.
And ChatGPT isn't the only one out there.
No.
So ChatGPT, I would say I've used a number of them, and I would say it's the best right now, and it's free.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know if it'll always be free, but it's currently free. I've used one called Jasper.ai, which it used to be called Jarvis, and then they got sued by Marvel.
Yeah.
But but Jasper is another tool, but it's expensive. It's like $100 a month to use this tool, but it can, write a blog post for you, but it's not as good as ChatGPT, and you can't just give it a prompt. Like
you can't get like one sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one called Writer, RYTR.me. Again, it's not ChatGPT quality, but it's another kind of form of that.
Right.
But as we move forward, this is 2023, and this feels like a new horizon. It's going to be the way here coming soon, where this is going to be all out there. So I don't know if it would make sense for a school to block this website.
Right.
It might likely be a good time.
To put it into whatever form of blocking you have securely or.
But the kids are pretty
things.
scrappy and they'll find a way around.
They will, but it slows them down at least.
Yeah.
So it's just something to be aware of. I've seen more and more talking about it, and I figure while there are some ways you could definitely build it into your classroom, but also it's going to, we want our kids learning to write. We want them learning how to do things on their own. If they're going to use this as a tool to be able to analyze and like work through things, awesome. But if this is going to be just a way for them to like get around doing something, then they're not going to be learning from it. So
the other things to look out for is everything's going to be about the same length if people are doing it this way. There's some ways that you'll be able to tell, again, if the student doesn't normally write at that level, and all of a sudden
it's just like any other kind of plagiarism things when you're polling. So you can see, like, do they know that vocabulary?
Right.
Do they actually have all that punctuation and spelling done correctly? Because even in a Google Doc, when it tells you it's spelled wrong, we all know kids that do not actually click the button.
Otherwise, another way to do it, make everybody write on paper.
We'll take 3 steps back. So that's Chat GPT.
Yep.
But there's another
chat.openai.com is how you get to that. And you'll have to log in and it'll ask you for a phone number. That's another piece of this too, is when it logs you out, you have to log in and use a 2-step verification in order to get in. And it requires a phone number. So if you see students pulling out their phones.
Right. If you don't allow phones, it's one thing, but we can't control what they're doing at home.
Exactly.
But there's another one. So OpenAI.com. And then this is OpenAI and it's /Dall, DALL -E-E2. It's called Dall-E-2.
Yep.
Okay. And this one's fun to play around with.
Yes.
So it's another OpenAI source. And what it does is it creates realistic images from art descriptions. And it's so much fun to play around with. Now, this one is free. You do get limited like credits if you download stuff. But if you're just having kids, again, writing prompts or art creation or pulling up cool ideas for different just creative images in class. So if you want them for like a 2-minute write, if you want to use these images for a story starter, if you want it to be a journal entry, if you want it to be like traveling a place in this world, or if you want to base like a science fiction story on something, or whatever it may be, if you're doing social studies and you want to run into strange things on a map you're making or something. So Dall-E-2, basically, you type in a description of an image. So, and it can be really random, like a purple monster.
I typed in a cartoon of a young adventurer girl with her large, surly dad standing in front of a unicorn. And I got 4.
So we'll
versions.
put these on the website so that way you can see them. We'll put them on smartandwi.com this week in the blog so you guys can see what we pull up. I'm searching a purple monster holding a pineapple. And what's so fun is that you can type in a description of anything and it's appropriate because there are restrictions on the site. Like they don't let you search just anything. So it is helpful. There are some like people can't search weird, crazy things, but here is my purple monster holding a pineapple. A lot of them look like a purple pineapple holding another pineapple.
Yes, here's
perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll put these on the site because they're fun to look at, and I want you to be able to see what we're searching, which is super fun and amazing. And so there's all kinds of cool, just quick ways to search images in a fun, like, okay, you give me a place, and if you say like Hawaii, that seems so tame compared to what I could be searching.
Yep.
And you tell me a thing. So Hawaii.
Let's say
a table.
Yep. Okay.
And a place, a thing, and a color.
We'll say
give me a color.
Pink.
Pink. All right. It is searching. And then they have cute little like mention thing. They give you little tips like mention pixel art if that's what you want. And here we have a Hawaii table in pink. Aloha.
Aloha. And look at that. It looks 3D.
Right?
Wow.
Is that cool?
That is very cool.
So it's crazy, but you can just do these searches for random things to get kids writing or thinking or brainstorming or creating in any possibility that you want to.
Yes, I have a Cocker Spaniel eating a bowl of Captain Crunch, and it's really cute. And it looks like a Cocker Spaniel eating a bowl of Captain Crunch. So we'll put those all up on the website for you to check out. And I have to say this about OpenAI too. They have another program that I was actually experimenting before I knew this was our topic today. Mm-hmm. So we use Otter AI. Oh, what do you have?
I have a polar bear eating a hamburger.
Oh my gosh. It looks like a real polar bear eating a hamburger, like really enjoying that hamburger.
We've talked about Otter AI a little bit on the site before.
Right, So we use Otter AI for the transcriptions on this site, but OpenAI has a program called Whisper, which is a transcription service or a transcription bot, essentially, where you upload an MP3 file or a WAV file and it will transcribe it for you. However, in order to run that, you need to be able to run Python on your computer, which most Macs can. Mine is currently locked down, so I have to have our IT guy open that up for me to do. But when doing that, it will transcribe everything free for you through Whisper, which is another OpenAI program. So all this stuff that they're doing is just...
It's really cool.
High-end, well done.
And free. Which we appreciate. Yep. It's just being aware of it as a teacher, because there's some great ways it can be used and definitely helpful in the classroom, and then ways that you might just want to be aware of how your students are using it and if it's appropriate. And I now have a polar bear eating celery.
That's a healthy polar bear. I like the third hamburger one that you had.
I do. That's the picture I will put on smartandwi.com. You guys can plug.
Yep.
So anywho, all right. So there's some OpenAI for the new year in 2023 to bring everybody up to speed on what's happening and all the cool ways you can use it, but all the things to be aware of. And check out the blog spot on smartandwi.com so you guys can see those images. And if you create some of your cool Dall-E images of your own, I would love to see them on Twitter too. And that's all of the things. So that's our first episode of 2023, which is episode 137 for us.
Nice.
Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast. If you ever have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at smartandwi. And if you want to get more information on the links to the technology discussed in this episode, you can visit smartandwi.com. If you'd like to support the show, please consider buying me a coffee or two. Visit buymeacoffee.com/smartandwi or visit smartandwi.com and click on that cute little purple coffee cup. Your donations help keep the show going. New episodes each week. Thanks for listening. Go educate and innovate.
The ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast and the Smart NWI website are those of the author, Shanna Martin, and not of her employer. Prior to using any of the technologies discussed on this podcast, please consult with your employer regulations. This podcast offers no guarantee that these tools will work for you as described, but we hope they do.